Hi, I'm Debbie.
And I'm Amy.
We are Tessie Pearl, a community for widows.
Today we're going to talk about identity. We're going to start with a quote by Walter Rinder. It says, "We are all mirrors unto one another. Look into me and you will find something of yourself as I will of you." So Debbie, describe for me, what is a mirror? What does it represent to a person?
Well, a mirror to me is the label that we have with that person. Whether this is, I'm the wife to this man, I'm the mother to these children. So it's the role that you play, and that becomes, for some people, that's their identity.
It does become their identity.
And
yeah.
I was introduced in one of my grief training courses with Dr. Alan Wolfelt, that he was visiting with a young girl through different sessions. And she came out with the question, well, am I still a sister after the death of her brother?
Yeah.
And I thought that was so intuitive of her to wonder about that. But that happens with everybody who has had a close loved one die.
Yeah.
Is questioning their place in the world with that label that they'd always had.
Yeah, with that role. Mm-hmm. Because if they've taken it on as a core identity, then they don't know, they feel lost.
Well, and you see that as our children grow up and they're no longer in the home, and you see mothers have a hard time adjusting to that empty nest.
Yeah.
Is because they don't have that day to day that they are dealing with their children.
Yeah, that who am I? Mm-hmm. So I want to define identity as I've come to know it. And this came about, I was pregnant with my daughter, and I all of a sudden ended up on bed rest, and I had 4 boys that were active and all over the place. And I was incapable, it felt like, of doing anything because I was just stuck in bed. My brain kind of went into a little bit of a depression, wondering, who am I? I now can't serve my kids like I would as a mom. I'm not being a really good wife right now. I'm not showing up in any of the activities and hobbies and things that I love to do. And I had a little bit of an identity crisis.
I could see that. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, it was hard. And so then I realized, where does my identity stem from? Does it have anything to do with what I can do or cannot do if I have success or if I fail? And it came to me that no, my identity is none of that. It's not any of the roles, any of the labels that we put on ourselves. It's simply because I'm a human being and I live and I breathe and eventually I will die, but I still have a divinity in me. And in any of my training, because I've done a lot of more Eastern psychology trainings, and they call it the divine self, and that divinity within us, that resonated with me. That no matter what else is going on around me, that's what my identity is, nothing else.
Well, I had the opportunity a few weeks ago to be hypnotized, and that was something I'd never done before. And while I was in that hypnotic state, she asked me to talk to my spiritual self.
Okay.
And she asked me, what does your spiritual self look like? And I said, well, it's me. Yeah. And that was very interesting because I definitely believe in my spiritual self, but not everybody does. But we all have that divine center and that spark. And at the loss of your husband at death, it's very easy to have that diminished. I won't say we lose it, but it can be diminished just because of grief and sadness. And so you do have to find and reignite that spark.
Yeah. So that's where I want to go in the difference between, and describe the difference then between identity then and roles. And it can be really hard because when you lose a loved one, you feel like you've lost yourself.
It takes a long time.
Even if you were with that spouse or significant other for just a few years or decades, you have woken up and had breakfast with them every day or dinner with them every evening. You've planned hopes and dreams and watched them come to fruition, and some of them not. You've gone through really hard times together that have really bonded you. And then you've watched and had joyous times watching your favorite sports teams or going to plays or whatever it is that you enjoyed. All of that was what you did together. And that can feel like my husband and me as a wife then are one. And now he's gone and I don't know who I am anymore.
Yeah, where does that leave me?
And where does that leave me? And so our hope in describing the divine self is that if something is gone and taken away, there still is opportunity for you to move forward. Does that make sense? So I like to look at it, pretend you're a football player, a pro football player, okay? Think of your favorite football team. Or you're a professional concert pianist, you're a concert pianist, and you have spent years mastering your craft, whether it's on the field or in a concert hall. And you are surrounded by people who you love. You go to events. This fills your life. It takes hours and hours of your life and it fills you with joy. And then one day you lose the ability, maybe through an accident or an injury, and you can no longer play football or you can no longer play the piano. And all of a sudden that piece, if it has become your identity, it rocks your world. And you wonder, who am I? But just like that concert pianist and that football player, we're going to go through some rocky times as we figure it out. Eventually, when we get to the other side, if we're grounded in our identity as just our divine, true, authentic self, we can find other places to put that love, to find the joy, to create hopes and dreams, and maybe someone else to go through hard times with.
Well, as you were talking about that, I was thinking, because we as outside people often put the labels on, and so we identify with others as to what they do, not necessarily who they are. And so we can feed that problem as well. We introduce them as this other identity and not who they
just I'm
are.
Amy.
Yeah.
And you're Debbie.
Exactly.
We may be lots of other things, but we are Amy and we are Debbie. And at Tessie Pearl, I think it's really important that we recognize that that's what we're teaching our widows, and that we support each other as a group of women to know that we are special, just as we are.
Yeah. And you don't need to even go beyond that, because
just
who
as we
you
are
with you as the divine center and authentic self that you are perfect. Thank you for joining with us today. Please leave comments. We love to hear from you. Check us out at tessiepearl.com, and we're on social media at Tessie Pearl Community.